or not even deprioritizing, maybe just not even occurring, right? It's like
Right.
to have that end in mind and think about how is it, looking at your loved ones right now that are in their 70s, that are in their 80s and how they're spending their time. And is that the way you want to spend your time,
Right.
right?
Exactly. Yeah. I don't think any of us think about it because we're just constantly trying to make it through the next day because we're
Yeah,
so busy and just pushing through everything.
Yeah.
right.
And I
Right.
think a lot of people just assume that's the inevitable, but I think
Yeah,
there's a lot we can do to change what your 70s and 80s look like. They don't have to look like
absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Welcome to the Resiliency Method, the truth about healing. I'm Dr. Erika, and we are here to uncover the root causes keeping you stuck. Together, we'll restore your energy, your focus, and your resiliency so you can finally heal, regenerate, and feel truly alive again.
Did you know that women with lower muscle mass are up to 5 times more likely to experience cognitive decline and dementia? If that stat just made your jaw drop, you're in the right place. I'm Dr. Erica, and today on the Resiliency Method, the Truth About Healing podcast, we're diving deep into why your muscle is your most powerful longevity organ. And it's not just about looking toned. Join me today are Dr. Heidi Codino, Dr. Serena Rasmussen, two naturopathic doctors who are blowing up myths about hormones, aging, and what it really takes to stay sharp, strong, and independent well into your 80s. Trust me, this conversation will change how you think about your future. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Resiliency Method, the Truth About Healing podcast. I'm Dr. Erica, and joining me today, I have Dr. Heidi Codino and Dr. Serena Russum, and they are naturopathic doctors and experts in women's health and longevity medicine. They are award winning speakers, and Dr. Codino is on the advisory board for the Menopause Association, known for helping women thrive from perimenopause through postmenopause, while Dr. Russum specializes in hormonal health, BHRT, and functional medicine with a strong focus on root cause healing. Together, they bring a powerful, holistic approach to women's health from puberty through menopause and helping people understand their hormones, optimize their longevity, and live vibrant, healthy lives. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thanks for having us here. We're very
Yes, so
excited.
great to have you today. You guys have such a wealth of knowledge. I'm excited to have you on and to share with our audience some of the things that you're up to and the wealth of knowledge that you have, especially in the area of perimenopause and menopause and women's health and the aging process.
Yes,
So
it's very under talked about.
it is, and it's a very prevalent and useful topic because I know there's a lot of women out there who are identified and probably even like feeling a little worried about the aging process. And, you know,
Yep,
we need to get them on a better footing for that. Yeah.
absolutely.
Hmm. All right. So, yeah, I want to start off by asking you some questions here about specifically, as women are aging, and we often hear this pretty commonly, I think, too, is the importance of muscle and why muscle is such a critical piece of the puzzle when we're talking about longevity and resilience. Can you get us started off on the thinking around that?
Yeah, absolutely. Muscle isn't just about tone or power. It's a vital organ for your metabolism, your hormones, your brain. Healthy muscle is what really regulates your blood sugar, supports your bone strength, keeps your hormones balanced. And after menopause, maintaining muscle becomes way more important. Studies show that women with lower muscle mass are up to 5 times more likely to experience cognitive decline and dementia. That's because when you activate muscles, they release key brain supporting compounds like BDNF alpha and IGF-1, so brain derived neurotropic factor and insulin like growth factor. These help keep your brain nice and sharp, your mood balanced, which we all need a little bit of, and your blood vessels healthy. Less muscle also means less movement and less independence. And I don't know about you, but as a woman in my late 40s, I love my independence and I want to keep it. So if you have less independence, you're going to have fewer chances for social and mental engagement. Those are all also essential for long-term brain vitality. The good news is that we haven't lost it all yet. Muscle loss is not inevitable. We can build it and preserve it through resistance training, adequate protein, daily activity. You can protect both your body and your brain by building your muscle. So, in short, Strong muscles are one of the best ways to stay mentally sharp, physically resilient, and hormonally balanced as you age, even after menopause.
Love it. Yeah. Tell us more. So, can you explain how the aging and the hormonal changes that affect muscle loss and how what that actually means for women's long term resilience as well?
Yeah. So as we age, muscle loss, called sarcopenia, tends to speed up. This happens because levels of estrogen, a hormone that helps protect muscle and support repair, so it's not just about your cycle, ladies, begins to drop. At the same time, the body becomes more prone to inflammation when you have less estrogen and less efficient at building muscle. So, on average, women lose about 0.5% of lean muscle each year during the menopausal transition. While body fat naturally increases, this shift in body composition can make women more likely to experience frailty, falls, fractures, and reduced independence later in life. It's not just estrogen, though. Testosterone plays a huge role. It's not just a male hormone, women need it too. And during and after menopause, declines in testosterone makes it harder to build and maintain muscle strength. So, as we age, when those hormones start to drop, it gets harder to maintain our muscle and we got to work harder to do it.
Yeah, true. And what are some of the ways that, well, first, let's start with what are the roles do you think that optimizing the hormonal health and using BHRT, and let's define that for our audience too, right? And play in supporting muscle health and overall longevity.
Yeah, so BHRT is bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. You can say HRT, you can say HR. We've heard all of them. We like to
Hmm.
use BHRT because we do only the bioidentical forms. So really, with kind of like leading back to what she was saying is estrogen and testosterone, especially, like they are what helps with inflammation and what helps with building muscle and keeping muscle. So estrogen does much more than just regulate your cycle, like she said. It's also powerful muscle protector. So the main form, estradiol, helps your body repair and rebuild muscle by activating special muscle stem cells. They're called satellite cells. These also reduce inflammation and help prevent muscle breakdown. So when
Nice.
estrogen level drops during perimenopause, these repair systems slow down. So muscles don't recover as easy, they don't grow as easy, which leads to the sarcopenia or the muscle loss and
Hmm.
a higher risk of weakness, falls, fatigue. And same thing with testosterone. Testosterone, even though it's not, considered the male hormone, it also declines when we're going through perimenopause and menopause. So testosterone is also important for making muscle protein synthesis. So it tells
Got
your
it.
body to build and maintain muscle tissue. As both estrogen and testosterone decline, women's ability to gain or preserve muscle becomes so much harder. If we can provide exogenous hormones, so like an estradiol patch and a progesterone, micronized progesterone pill, and maybe a testosterone cream to get their hormones back into optimal ranges, then we can combat all of these negative effects from not having enough hormones to keep your muscle and to keep your bones healthy and the inflammation down and all the other things that hormones do.
Wow, so interesting. And, there's a lot of fear around hormone replacement, and historically, there certainly has been. And I feel like that's subsiding a little bit, and people are starting to, have a little bit more comfort, especially with some of the analysis of older studies and newer studies and such. And then even I think some of the forms of hormones, like you mentioned, becoming more, and I'm a preference to bioidentical. That's sort of where I feel more comfortable when my patients come and we're working on the root causes of the hormone imbalances. Having that certainly as a part of their journey is really useful, and it makes me more comfortable when there's bioidentical. But, I feel like I've been a little probably like a lot of people, then there's some things that I've had to come to understand around hormones that are sort of getting broken up. So tell us and expand a little bit more on those myths for us.
Yeah, so I feel like I always come in contact with kind of like what I call the big five myths. So the first one is all hormone replacement therapy is dangerous and causes cancer. This broad fear comes largely from outdated studies, namely the Women's Health Initiative. And primarily, that study was performed on synthetic hormone replacement therapy formulations, oral forms, and it was also done in a lot of women who wouldn't be considered candidates today. The current science differentiates between types of hormones and delivery methods, which is huge because oral versus transdermal. there's a big risk difference and also how our body processes it.
Yeah. Okay.
So when you come to bioidentical hormones, basically they're molecularly identical to those that the body produces and are
Okay.
often safer and better tolerated than the synthetic versions. Because
Got it.
our
Okay.
synthetic yeah, the synthetic versions don't get processed through the body the same way. And so one big thing that you have to consider when you're doing hormone replacement therapy is progesterone and estrogen, or estrogens, I should say, are, let's think of them like sisters. So you have the really fun younger sister. This is her
This is
analogy.
my analogy. I use
Really
it all the
fun,
time.
really fun younger sister, estradiol. She likes to go have fun, but she can get into trouble sometimes. But when she goes out with her older sister, progesterone, it keeps her in check. But when you get the synthetic progestins, it does not keep your estradiol and all the estrogens in check in the same way. So it's really important to keep those ratios in balance. But in general, why, like, besides the synthetic versions not being the best, in my opinion, the risks depend on timing, dose, individual health risks, and like we already talked about, the formulation. And many studies now highlight how protective bioidentical hormone replacement therapy can be for cardiovascular health, metabolic benefits, and are really like early and appropriately prescribed to many women now
Mm,
and manage many symptoms. Going on to the second big myth is that bioidentical hormone replacement therapy is only for treating hot flashes and menopausal symptoms. While it is effective at managing those symptoms, it also supports long term health by protecting bones, muscle, brain function, metabolic balance. It helps counteract sarcopenia, osteoporosis, and cognitive decline risks, underscoring its role in longevity, not just symptomatic care. So, when we talk about root causes, hormones are really important at maintaining our health. The big number 3 myth is that you have to take hormones forever or else it's dangerous to stop.
I
mm.
don't even know where that one came
Yeah,
from, honestly.
that's just not true.
Yeah, that is an interesting one. You don't know the foundings of that
Yeah,
in particular?
no, I don't, but I hear it all the time,
Mhm.
and I'm
Yeah,
just like,
I did too. Yeah.
"Okay,
Okay.
I don't know."
Yeah.
No.
The
It
reality is you can take it for the period that you need it, and if you don't wanna take it anymore, you can get off of it. Many women safely use, biological hormone replacement therapy for several years, adjusting as symptoms and health risk evolves, and then discontinue it under medical guidance, and it's generally safe and does not cause any sudden health crises. However, I will tell you, many women are like, "I'm not giving these up, so you're not taking them away from me." Yep.
what's the earliest that you prescribe BHRT to your patients, and what would you say about, when to start, age, when to be looking at it?
So it really depends on their symptom picture, right? So like perimenopause generally starts at age 35 to 45, right? And it lasts for 10 to 15 years until you hit that one day, that menopause, that 12 months without a period, and then you're postmenopause. So like everybody says menopause, but really menopause is literally just one day.
Yeah.
But we'll start it if they're having a lot of symptoms at 35 or even younger. Some people have primary ovarian failure, just
Mhm.
depending on what's going on. We'll check, see their hormones, obviously something's going on. But if they're having symptoms and it's completely, it's ruining their lives a lot of times, we will do hormone therapy when they're, 35 or if they're having symptoms of perimenopause. It really is life changing when you get to that point and you just don't feel like yourself anymore because your hormones have just dipped so low that you're just like, I have no idea who I am. All of these things are happening to me. I'm having all of these
Yeah.
symptoms. Nobody can figure out what it is. We will start hormones. We generally start at the very lowest dose and then we'll kind of go up as, more symptoms arise. But with bioidentical hormones, it's safe to start when you are having symptoms.
Yeah, got it. Okay. And then, some people are like, I don't want to do those hormones, but I think there's a few more myths, right, that we want to cover. I don't want to get
Yeah,
too far because
so
this is kind of an interesting conversation. Let's
yeah,
keep
no
going on
worries.
the myths. Tell me more. Tell me more.
Okay. So also the idea that natural or bioidentical means it is completely safe and there's no risk at all. That's not true. I mean, at this point, we still need to acknowledge that there are some risks with bioidentical hormone replacement therapy.
Okay.
In general, like the updated Women's Health Initiative study is showing that it is very protective in all the things that we thought it was going to cause, like we already talked about. However, we still need to be careful and warn women about the potential risks. So those
Okay.
typically are breast cancer, although I know there are doctors out there today who, if you have a breast cancer history, are not saying that you are no longer a candidate for hormone replacement therapy, especially if you're talking about vaginal health and urethral health. Um, Women now, they are definitely candidates for that because it prevents those chronic UTIs later in life. So even if you've had breast cancer in the past, you can still use vaginal estradiol to
Mm-hmm.
help maintain those tissues. So that's one of the big things that has changed around safety profile. The other thing is they've removed the black box warnings off of testosterone. So before they were talking about the cardiovascular increased risk with that. That is no longer there.
Okay.
However, when you're talking going back to women with estrogen, the other risk is the increase in blood clots. However, the research shows that transdermal or non-oral estrogen does not have the same risk. However, whenever I'm prescribing these hormones to people, I still do acknowledge that, the old study was over a longer period of time and had a lot more people in it. Is a lot larger. So I
Got
still
it.
need to
Yeah.
tell you about these risks. However, all of the current research is showing that those
It's not true.
risks, well, that those risks are significantly reduced, if not no longer present.
Got
So,
it.
yeah. And then lastly, a lot of people are concerned about weight gain with bioidentical hormone replacement therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is that weight changes depend on many factors. Just because you're on hormone replacement therapy is not going to just cause you to gain weight. There's many other things going on that is probably
That's usually progestins, honestly.
Yeah.
Progestins will make you gain a lot of weight.
yeah,
Got it.
and if you're already low and we're just trying to get you to a physiological normal level, that's not going to cause weight gain. It's going to be more about preserving that muscle to actually help your metabolic rate so you don't gain weight. So
Are you guys seeing a transition from doctors like really just going more towards the bioidentical hormone replacement as opposed to the synthetics? What kind of movement do you see or you know of in that
I am
arena?
I am not. So as naturopathic doctors, I think a lot of people seek us out because people don't want the conventional kind, right? And a lot of the conventional doctors still are not prescribing hormones. They're still saying, "Oh no, it's too dangerous," because they're not
Oh, I see.
maybe
Yeah.
maybe they're
Mm-hmm.
not up on the research or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I see a lot of people. I had a 53-year-old woman come to me just last week, and she was on an oral contraceptive, and it was estrogen and progestin
Okay.
contraceptive to help her through her perimenopause and postmenopause. And it was her gynecologist that had prescribed it. And I'm glad I still wear masks at work because I think my jaw would have hit the floor. And yeah, that's not safe. That's not healthy. I got her off of that right away. We are putting her on bioidentical, a transdermal estradiol, and a micronized progesterone, which is a pill, but progesterone actually works better that
Yeah.
way. And then I'm also putting her on some testosterone because the labs that we ran show that her testosterone is just barely there, and she's working out and doing the things she can, but she's not gaining any muscle and she's not even preserving what she has. So
Gotcha.
I have not seen it get better in conventional medicine, but also we're in a specialized kind of niche where people come to us because we do different things. So
Sure.
I'm
That
not
makes
sure.
sense.
yeah, I would say I've seen a little bit of improvement. I've definitely seen conventional doctors more willing to prescribe it. However, I feel like the thing that concerns me the most is that they often still put women on like a medroxyprogestin
Yeah.
instead of just real progesterone. And like we talked about, that synthetic progestin doesn't counteract the effects of the estradiol, like the negative effects of the estradiol the same way. It's important to keep that ratio. And I really strongly disagree with the whole if you don't have a uterus, you don't need progesterone.
Yeah.
There's many other reasons why you would want to be taking progesterone
Brain
to
health, heart health, skin health,
Yeah.
hair health.
all of those reasons to like support those things, but also just to like keep the estradiol in balance. So you're not
Yeah.
having, because estradiol is great. It does so many amazing things for us, but it is the one, like we talked about, that naughty younger sister that like gets into slightly more trouble when it's unopposed, when it doesn't have the older sister to be like, wait, maybe we shouldn't do that right now. Like, maybe we
Mhm.
should like step it back. So I feel like those are kind of the biggest, like, I'm seeing a more willingness to look into it and prescribe it, but I still think they have a long way to go.
You got it. Yeah. Are you tired of treatments, protocols, and gurus who promise results but don't deliver? You're not alone. For years, I struggled with my own long term illness, and I know how frustrating it feels when nothing seems to work. That's why I developed the Resiliency Method. It's a science backed approach to combining the best of Western and ancient medicines to restore your body's natural intelligence. Patient after patient has discovered what's possible, living stronger, brighter, and more spiritually connected than ever before. Whether you're facing autoimmune issues, hormonal imbalances, weight struggles, or just feeling stuck, you don't need another quick fix. You need a clear path forward. Take the first step with a discovery call at drerikaonline.com/discovery. That's DRERIKA online.com/discovery. Or dive deeper with a full initial consultation at drerikaonline.com/initial-consultation, because your health, your clarity, and your freedom cannot wait. Did we cover all the myths that we know are
Yeah, those
out
are
there,
kind of
you
the big
think?
myths, but I do have like a quick summary for people if
Yeah,
that's
that'd be
helpful.
great. That was a lot. That was good information, but yeah, if you could summarize it,
Yeah.
that would be great.
Yeah, so the current science really emphasizes a personalized, in evidence-based, individualized approach to bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. So using formulations identical to our endogenous hormones can reduce side effects and improve outcomes. And current science supports a lower risk profile, not risk-free, but a significantly lower risk profile. Starting therapy near menopause onset can maximize benefits while minimizing the risk, as well as maintain our longevity, because that's what we are really wanting to talk about
Mhm.
here is the importance of longevity. But also, BHRT benefits extend beyond symptoms relief, including muscle preservation, bone density maintenance, cardiovascular support, and cognitive protection. So, like that longevity piece, like we talked about. So,
Love
I
it.
think a lot of doctors are just using it to maintain symptoms, but it can also be part of a longevity protocol. And I think that should be more addressed. And we're seeing how much it really benefits women in those
Mhm.
key health parameters. And finally, it should be shared decision making, and ongoing monitoring is key for maintaining safety and making sure that you have an effective therapy and are an appropriate dose.
And you guys are using what kind of diagnostics to measure hormone health and balance? What's your standard that you're using? Blood
So
serum, urine
It
combination?
it really depends on what our patients can afford.
Mhm.
So, obviously, we would love to just have urine. It is the best to see the metabolites and everything like that.
Yeah.
That's not always gonna be the case that can
Or
happen.
for monitoring, if
Or
you're
for yeah, we're not gonna
monitoring.
make them do that every time for monitoring because it can be very expensive and insurance doesn't cover it.
Yeah.
So we do serum a lot, just because that is what most of our patients can either afford or have time for, or it's quick and easy.
Got it.
And we
Yeah.
found that there's a lot of good research out there that tells you the serum levels. So, like for instance, for estradiol, in order to keep a good bone health and cognitive support, you need to have it at about 80 to 100.
Mhm.
So, that's a really good reference range that we can use in something
Right.
that is covered by insurance.
Got it. Awesome. Now, I know there's some people that, especially in my audience, that may be a little bit not used to or not necessarily seeking out, but I think this is some great information you're bringing to the table because it is a different way of looking at hormones than we've ever really considered, and sort of starting to open up and expand our thinking around hormone therapy. And even hormone therapy, like you said, it doesn't have to be forever. It can be to bring you back online for a period of time. And in our approach, we're oftentimes getting to root causes of hormone deficiencies, and we'll start to bring the body in balance by repairing kidneys at a glandular level, doing that repair that we specialize in. But I know that some people just might still be obstinate, can't get on the page of doing the BHRT, not maybe that just not their avenue.
Hmm.
And I know you guys have a great, like, balanced approach in looking at that and some other ways for not just only I know I've heard you speak about it's important for people that are on hormones as well as not on hormones, but your attention, like we started with the conversation today on the muscle and building that and supporting that and using that as a way to prevent decline. If you can expand a little bit on that, I'm going to throw one more question too in there. Just also too, can you talk a little bit about cardiovascular exercise? Because I've got some thoughts on that. I think we're at middle age, we start to probably do too much of that, or we tend to think that our exercise program should look the way it did in our 20s and 30s, and we're seemingly trying to reach that goal where doing
Yeah.
cardio as a bigger portion was probably okay, and we got away with it. As we get older, it doesn't seem like we do as much, and I'd like you to expand
Yeah.
on that too if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, I love talking about exercise and training and all that stuff. I was raised in the 80s and 90s, and so everything was, cardio this and cardio that. Don't lift heavy weights because you're going to get bulky. You know, calories in, calories out. All these things, and absolutely all of it was wrong. So,
Yeah, right? I mean,
especially
really,
now in
like,
midlife, we have to completely rework all of that, and we have to get that out of our heads.
we
And it's still
do.
even hard for me to get out, and I know better.
Yeah, well, but I often because I study Chinese medicine, right? Ancient
Mhm.
medicine, and I started looking at cultures, other cultures, and how they move and their exercise and what they use as exercise. For example, Chinese, there's a lot of attention on Tai Chi and
Mhm.
Qigong. And at first I was like, what the heck? That's a waste of your time. And I started to see that over time. I'm like, oh, they're actually using things like that to increase energy, not
Yeah.
trying to take a body and actually put it in a gym and continue to deplete the energy from it.
Right. Well, and they're contracting their muscles, right? So they're building muscle because they're contracting it, but they're also doing mobility exercise, which is huge. You
Hmm.
wanna keep your mobility. Cardio is not horrible. It's just not the only thing. The
Right.
biggest thing, especially for if you're wanting to maintain muscle mass, especially after your hormones start dipping, resistance and strength training is huge. And it's not, I'm going to take a 5-pound weight and do 100 reps. It's literally, you want to do big muscle groups 3 to 4 times a week, and you want to lift heavy. So it's lifting heavy is not going to make you bulky. Lifting heavy is going to build muscle, and you want to do progressive overload because that continually challenges the muscles. So when you continually challenge the muscles, that sends the message to the brain saying, "Oh, okay, we got to send messages to the muscle to build more muscle because they keep adding more load." So resistance and strength training needs to be your biggest key portion. I always do cardio. I do sprints though. I
Okay.
don't like just do a long term. I'm gonna jog for 2 miles kind of thing. I have exercise induced asthma, so I hate that feeling anyways. So
Hmm.
sprints are great for me, and sprints is really good. It's kind of like hit, but not completely. It's 1 minute on, 1 minute off. So they're called sprints. So like I'll that's kind of my warm up to before I lift weights, and that gets my cardiovascular up. I have a
Nice.
very good VO2 max. I have a great HR variability, but that's how I do it, right? You do need cardio. You need to move your body. You need to go for long walks. You need to go
Yeah.
walk up hills. You do need that. It's just not,
Movement.
I'm
Mhm.
going to do all of these things all the time and not lift muscle.
And I need
Not,
to pound my joints into the ground to get
yeah,
Yeah.
any
exactly.
I
And
result.
like
yeah,
Yeah, I like to say you should be doing like moderate intensity cardio, meaning the sprint is fine for a warm up, but if you're going to do like 30 minutes of cardio, you don't need to be like running your heart out. You could be doing a brisk walk, and that's probably going to be a lot better for your longevity than training for a marathon, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
technically my sprints are 24 minutes, but that's my warm up
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's the only time I do
But
cardio
you're
because I
doing
don't
like
like it.
the minute
Yes.
and then off and
I
the
do a
minute and then
minute
off. It's
of
different.
fast walking and then a minute of sprinting and a minute of fast walking, a minute of sprinting. And I
Yeah.
just do it on the treadmill at the
Yeah.
gym.
So you're
Nice.
getting your blood flowing and ready to
Yes.
then lift, which is
Love
Yes.
it.
different than like, I'm going to go for a run.
Yes.
And I like that format too. I think just even, for the busy professional and the high performers and, all of us, our time is like of the essence. And the model you're talking about really is pretty doable, right? Can you break that down into to time that it would take to
Yeah.
get that
So
kind of routine in?
I'll just give you what I do because this is kind of what I tell my patients to do, anyways. Also, I break it down into 4 times a week. I go to the gym 4 times a week. And I go to the gym because when I first got back so I was a nutritionist and master trainer before I went to med school. And then I went to med school and didn't teach anymore and gained a bunch of weight. And, med school is just not for your body in any way. But when I got back into it, I felt weak. I was going through perimenopause. So, like, I had already had some of that sarcopenia. And so I chose to go to a gym so that I could use machines so that I could lift heavy safely
Got it.
or more
Yeah.
safely than trying to do free weights. I knew how to do all the free weights. I trained people how to do that. But I didn't trust my body because I hadn't used them in so long. I wanted to make sure that I got my muscles back up before I did free weights. So I choose to go to a gym, and I have a lot of people start there. So what I do is I go 4 days a week. I break it down into body parts. You always want to do opposing muscles. So I have a leg day, which is my favorite day. I'm
Mhm.
always excited on that day. It's my favorite. And that's calves, that's glutes, that's quads, that's hamstrings, that's adductors and abductors. That's all of those things. So that's what I do for them. And I do, like I said, I do my sprints as my warm up. So I do that for 24 minutes first, and then I go and I lift weights. And I'm talking, I lift heavy. So my sections that I do 3 sets of 6 reps. And I know that sounds like just a little bit of each, but really what I'm doing is I'm doing progressive loading. So I'll go and I'll do like something that's pretty heavy, but I can do 6 pretty easy. It hurts and I
Mhm.
can do it, but it's heavy. And then I go up by 15 pounds, or depending on which exercise it is, I go
Yeah.
up. And
Right.
then for that second set, and I do 6 again, and it's a lot harder to get that 6 in.
Yeah.
And then for my last set, I go up in weight again. And so that is like that 6th one, I'm barely getting it
You
out
might,
of
yeah,
good form.
or you might get 4 in or 5 in, but
Yep.
that's okay. Yeah.
Yes. And that's fine as long as you have good form. So
Yeah.
that's where you wanna go because you wanna do that progressive
Okay,
overload.
but you're a master trainer, and so you love the gym. What about the people that don't love the gym? That's myself
Yeah,
included.
I didn't love the gym. I did it because I needed to have a reason to work out. I hated it. I hated the gym. Now I love it because I feel strong. Once you start feeling strong, you can it is a lot more fun to go.
Got
Um,
it. Yeah.
but if you
Yeah.
don't love it, there's lots of other things you can do. I don't like just Pilates or just yoga or stuff like that. Those are great for stretching and mobility
And
and those
movement,
kinds of
yeah.
things, but you still need to lift heavy.
Yeah, and if you don't, like, what are the long-term consequences you think of ignoring muscle loss, and how does that correlate to our hormone balancing as we age?
Well, I mean, having the muscles, your muscle helps with your bone strength. It helps with, frailty. As we get older and we lose our balance and everything and hormones dip and everything else, we're kind of in this place where we're a lot more vulnerable. The slips and the falls, you break your hip, and sometimes people
Right.
don't come back from that.
Yeah.
So muscle really is the key to keeping all of that together.
Love
And
that.
you've got
Yeah.
to build it and you've got to keep it. And it's just a lot harder once your hormones have kind of tanked from, your ovaries, they're supposed to give out.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's nature. They're supposed
yeah.
to. It's fine.
We're not supposed to be
But
pregnant all for our entire life.
yeah, no, thank you. No,
Oh my
thank
gosh.
you at all.
Yeah. Currently pregnant, I
Yeah.
would not recommend.
Not recommended. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
because you're at the very wee end.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also, like you were saying, I am not a gym rat. I have never been into lifting, but I've always done a lot of resistance training where
Mhm.
I use my own body weight. And I like different activities that
Mhm.
force me to do that. And it does have to get pretty intense though. Like, it depends on your mobility and where you're at, but your body weight's still a pretty heavy weight. So
Mhm.
if you are not the person that's going to go to the gym, you can still do resistance training at home and use
I
your
love
body
it, yeah.
weight.
In the living room, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
With the dogs in your face, kissing you,
Just
yeah.
make sure you know what you're doing so you don't hurt yourself because an
Absolutely.
injury can set you so far back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Form is key, right? We could
Yep.
Mhm.
probably do a whole episode on that.
Yeah.
So what are the 3 things that you guys would advise that, to, like, future-proof our health and our resilience? You had to boil
Yeah.
it down.
Well, one of the biggest things, like we've been talking about, is maintaining your muscle.
Mhm.
Um, I think,
I think that came in loud and clear today.
yeah. But like first and foremost, maintaining the muscle. You got to do that. Other than that, we're really big on maintaining a healthy diet because if you're not feeding your body, it's not going to build or repair or have that longevity that you're looking for. So,
Primarily whole foods, shopping the
yes,
perimeter of the grocery
yep, I'm
store.
always
Yes.
a whole food diet. You want to balance your proteins with your carbohydrates and your healthy fats. You want to make sure you're getting all your micronutrients and, really I don't care exactly what diet you're doing as long as it's a whole food diet that's meeting those basic parameters. But I will point out that protein intake is usually way under what people should be eating. And I think that comes from our society and, like
The RDA numbers.
yeah, like
Yeah, true.
like the
Starts
low
there.
fat diet and the low protein, high carb, like that's even if it's whole food, that's not going to get you where you need to go. So I usually always tell, especially women, prioritize your protein first. And you
Yeah.
should be getting, anywhere from, depending on how much strength training you're doing, like 90 to 140 grams today or 140 grams per day. Sorry. And you should break that up in your 3 different meals throughout the day.
And did I hear you say too that like the a good target for that is your ideal body weight in grams of protein per day?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's how I like to kind of frame it to my patients because technically it's supposed to be like 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram per body weight. But what I did, that's nobody's going to calculate that. Nobody wants
Yeah,
to calculate
right.
in America, anyways. Everywhere else
Right.
uses that, but
Yeah.
we're just too
We're
lazy.
special.
We're special. So really, I tell people, if you want to be, if 135 or 140 pounds is your ideal weight, that's how much protein I want you to eat
Got
because
it.
you really need to eat that in order to build the muscle that's going to then get rid of the fat. And I also make sure that I point out, and I know you do too, they need to eat fat, healthy fats. Healthy
Yes,
fats are huge. If you do not eat
absolutely.
fat, your body is going to store whatever you do, and you don't want that.
Yeah, and not to
Got
get
to
too
have a lot
on
of
this.
healthy fats.
Yeah, absolutely. The cholesterol conversation, right? Increase that HDL so that we can offset the LDL. And that's a strategy to keeping that in good ratio and good proportion. And then, yeah, and then I have a question kind of on the protein subject for you guys. We're talking a lot about perimenopause and menopausal females and such. And one of the things I've seen definitely in my patient population is increasing rates of gastroparesis
Mhm,
and, things that look like digestive disorders that look very much correlated to poor vasovagal tone
mhm.
and especially as we age and such. And so I feel like, we say that we should get all this protein, but I know in reality, a lot of females in that age range are really struggling. They're on the struggle bus with the protein, especially the animal protein. Can you give some suggestions on dietarily and ways to do that, to accomplish that number
Yeah,
per day?
so I'm vegetarian.
Okay.
So I get about 140 grams of protein per day because I do lift heavy and I want to build muscle.
Hmm.
And I am in perimenopause. I'm in my late 40s and I'm in
Hmm.
the throes of it.
Here
Um,
we are.
yeah, yes, and I've experienced the gastroparesis and all the things. One of the reasons that actually comes about, this is kind of a cool thing, and I'll try to make it quick, is part of our microbiome is the estrobolome. And so it feeds off of, it breaks down the estrogen and it either, regenerates it or detoxes it or sends it to where it needs to go. But when you have less estrogen to feed it, it kind of dies off. And so do
Mm,
some of your other microbiome because of that. And so that's what really kind of starts that whole cascade of things.
and the weight
One
gain and yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and the gas and the bloating, and all of a sudden you have all these food intolerances that you never had before, and it's kinda crazy. But what you can do is if you have high quality proteins, whether it is animal-based or vegetable-based, you can take digestive enzymes. There's some really great digestive enzymes out there until you can get, if you are on HRT, if you have your normal levels or your good balance of levels, that will soon kind of balance out on its own. There's also some probiotics that you can add in as needed. One of my very favorite things to do for that gastroparesis is fiber. Lots and lots of fiber. I always tell people they need to have at least 40 grams of fiber a day.
Mhm.
You can get that with vegetables. You can get that with beans, legumes, lentils, all those kinds of things you can get that with. Fruit also, but fruit's a little high sugar. it's
Yeah.
good for you, but
Some's a little
in
too
moderation.
acidic. Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, that helps. But one of my very favorite things that I do for mine, and I don't do it every day, it's a peptide. It's called BPC 157. I absolutely love it. It is healing for the gut, for the joints. It's actually skin healing. It kind of works on a lot of different realms. I don't take it every day. Um, I just take it when I feel like I need it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Great.
Part of our foundations of health is healing the gut.
Hmm.
And a big part of that is I do see a pattern quite frequently where people have like a low grade H. pylori infection, which is then decreasing their stomach acid. And when your stomach acids decrease, you're not breaking down that. But then
Yeah.
also when it leaves the GI tract, then that it's not acidic enough to then trigger enough bile release or enough pancreatic enzymes. And so I feel like, getting those infections out of the way and optimizing your microbiome health is really important and often needs to be done before you start like drastically increasing the fiber or drastically increasing the protein because you're right, you're
Sure.
not going to break it down if
Right.
you're having a huge gut
Hmm.
inflammation and these microbes in there that don't like to play nice. So there is that big aspect as well.
Basically, your
Absolutely.
phase one of your program.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. For sure. It starts there. Yeah. Great. And then the better question I want you to think about. I want you to think about what in words, and I like to hear from, you can do this as a team or individually too. What if you could give your clients one question and you would say, this is the one question you should be asking in respect to your health? What would that be? That better
Want
question
to hit
to
or you
ask.
I would say you should really be thinking about how do you want your life to look like 10, 50 years from now? And are you living in a way that's going to support that
Mm, hmm.
Are you doing the things you need to do now to be where you want to be in 50 years
and
and
feel?
feel
Yeah.
the way you want to feel in 50
I
years?
love it. I love it. Yeah, so many of us have just, it's not us, but obviously we're in this profession and advocating for that. But so many in our communities are deprioritizing now, or not even deprioritizing, maybe just not even occurring, right? It's like
Right.
to have that end in mind and think about how is it, looking at your loved ones right now that are in their 70s, that are in their 80s, and how they're spending their time. And is that the way you want to spend your time?
Right.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. I don't think any of us think about it because we're just constantly trying to make it through the next day because we're
Yeah.
so busy and just pushing through everything.
Yeah.
Right.
And I
Right.
think a lot of people just assume that's the inevitable, but I think
Yeah.
there's a lot we can do to change what your 70s and
Mhm.
80s look like. They don't have to look like
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow, what a great conversation. You guys are so informative, especially around hormones and muscle, building muscle, that strategy. That was really great takeaways from today's conversation. Anything else you feel like you want to impart before we close up the session?
Really just that, we do see patients in Oregon and Washington. We are telehealth based. And so if you are looking for some extra hormone advice, support, information, we would love to hear from you. You can reach us at info@blossominglongevity.com or you can check out our website at blossominglongevity.com.
I love it. Thank you guys so much. So great to hear from your perspective and such just a lot of useful information here today.
Thank you so much for having us. It was
Yes.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the Resiliency Method, the Truth About Healing podcast. If this episode spoke to you, follow, share, and leave us a review. Are you ready to go deeper? Book your discovery call now at drerikaonline.com/discovery and take your first step today.